It was an ordinary day in Nantes, France, or so it seemed. The Dupont de Ligonnès family had been the picture of wealth and respectability. The parents, Xavier and Agnes, and their 4 children, Arthur, Thomas, Anne, and Benoit, were well liked in their community. On the outside, they lived a life most would envy, filled with grand homes, private schools, and family outings. But behind closed doors, the story was different. Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, a man with a calm demeanor and strong business ties, had started showing signs of stress. He was often preoccupied, his once sharp mind lost in a maze of worry. Agnes, his wife, was concerned, but Xavier insisted there was nothing to fear. He promised that things would improve soon. But on April 11, 2011, everything changed. Neighbors hadn't seen the Dupont de Ligonnès family in several days. The children had missed school and Agnes hadn't been to work. When Xavier's colleagues at his job reached out, they found his phone turned off. Curiously, Xavier had also left a note, claiming that he was taking the children on a family trip, but it didn't sit right with anyone. Then a call came in to the local police. A neighbor had reported that their dog had been barking incessantly. When officers arrived at the family home, they found a disturbing sight. The house appeared immaculate, untouched, but something was terribly wrong. The family's belongings were left behind, as though they'd vanished in the middle of the night. The police found no signs of struggle, but as they combed the property, a trail led them to the backyard. The garden, a serene place under the calm sky. But as the soil was disturbed, the earth gave up a chilling secret. 5 shallow graves were uncovered, one for each member of the Dupont de Ligonnès family. Their bodies were buried under a layer of freshly dug dirt, hastily covered and left to rot. Each body was wrapped in a similar manner, with plastic sheeting and a sense of cold, calculated intention. There was no sign of life. Agnes, the mother, had been buried next to her children. Xavier's body was nowhere to be found. The world was stunned. The media quickly took over the story, and speculation spread like wildfire. How had a father, seemingly a loving husband and father, gone from the head of a perfect family to a cold-blooded murderer? Where was Xavier? Was he still alive? Detective Léonard Dupuy was assigned to the case. A seasoned investigator, Dupuy had seen his fair share of murders, but this one felt different. The meticulousness of the crime, the planning behind it, haunted him. As he dug deeper into Xavier's past, he found a man who had been living a double life. Financial troubles, a struggling business, and hidden debts painted a portrait of a man desperately trying to maintain his family's image. But there were whispers too. Some claimed that Xavier had become increasingly erratic in the months leading up to the disappearance. One witness reported seeing him at night, talking to himself, pacing in front of the house. It seemed that the facade of the perfect family had been crumbling long before the bodies were found. As Detective Dupuy examined Xavier's history, something strange came to light. Xavier had been in contact with a mysterious woman in the weeks leading up to the murders. She was never identified, but the connection was undeniable. Was this woman involved in the disappearance? Had Xavier been planning this for months, or was it a spur-of-the-moment decision? And then, a break in the case. An anonymous tip came through directing Dupuy to a secluded cabin on the outskirts of Nantes. Inside, Dupuy found a series of letters written by Xavier, explaining his motives in cryptic language. They were filled with religious references, personal guilt, and an obsessive desire to protect his children from what he believed was a sinful world. But the most chilling letter of all was the one where Xavier wrote, "I will make them pay for their sins. They will never know peace." Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès remained at large, his whereabouts unknown. For years, the case became a national obsession. Theories ranged from him being dead to him living under an assumed identity in another country. Some even believed he had gone to South America to start a new life. But despite countless sightings, surveillance footage, and rumors, Xavier remained elusive. 7 years later, a breakthrough. A man who claimed to be Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès was spotted in the United States. His identity was confirmed through DNA testing, and a global search was launched. When authorities finally caught up with him, they found a broken man, disheveled and gone. Xavier had been living in plain sight, hiding in the shadows of his own guilt. The truth he had been running from was that he had not only killed his family, but had also been planning his own death. hoping to escape the consequences of his actions. But as his trial began, it became clear that the full scope of his mental deterioration was far deeper than anyone had imagined. The once perfect family had been shattered not by a man who had simply snapped, but by a twisted belief in his own righteousness. As Xavier was sentenced to life in prison, the world struggled to comprehend the depth of the tragedy. The Dupont de Ligonnès family had been buried not only in the ground, but in the hearts of those who once loved them. For Detective Dupuy, the case had become an obsession. The questions lingered. What had truly happened to the father who vanished without a trace? Was he just a man overwhelmed by the weight of his own actions? Or was there something darker lurking behind his motivations? The story of the Dupont de Ligonnès family was far from over, but the world had learned one chilling truth. Sometimes the people we trust the most can harbor the darkest secrets. Like and subscribe for more.